Now, I'm exploring a run for lieutenant governor, but you can run for lieutenant governor. The lieutenant governor stands alone at the convention. The lieutenant governor stands alone in the primary. And it's only after that that you're joined to the gubernatorial candidate and you run in the general election. And I think the reason that that is, and I hope the reason that that is that our laws envision a process where we're starting to think about, maybe for the first time in a long time, who the lieutenant governor is. Because, you know, sometimes lieutenant governors become governors. And sometimes lieutenant governors who become governors are wholly unprepared to be governor. And sometimes after 6 years of being the governor, they're still unprepared. So it's a problem. It's a problem. So I am the healthcare advocate. I know you didn't know you had one. A couple of you do know because I know you, Barbara, Dick, our good friend, Senator Schlossberg. I remember standing on the green in Milford with Senator Schlossberg when she was first running, and she always tells me, "You said you can win." And you did win. The healthcare advocate stands with patients and their families when their insurance company denies them access to care. So on the day that you need cancer treatment, or you need whatever medical service your doctor says you need, and the insurance company says no, you have somewhere to turn, thanks to your state government. In 1999, the legislature got really tired or aggravated with getting calls from constituents who kept getting denials from the insurance company and they had nowhere to refer them. They refer them to the insurance department, but that's the regulator. And the regulator has a different job. So I have the distinct honor and pleasure of standing with patients and their families every day. We do about 2,000 cases a year, and that's only the tip of the iceberg. This past year, $6.7 million in consumer savings. That's the value of the claims that got reversed in the patient's favor. When I got to that office, there were 2 people staring at me when I walked in the door. I made 3. And we took this sleepy little office and we turned it into a powerhouse of consumer advocacy in Connecticut. And for those of you who don't know about us, I apologize. But if you had needed us, I hope you would have found us. 2,000 cases a year, 6.7 million, $20 million since I've been in that office. That sleepy little office started really churning cases. We brought lawyers and nurses on board and formed partnerships with the patients and stood in their place when they got denied access to care. So one of the reasons that I'm taking a look at a run for lieutenant governor is I think healthcare is going to be a big thing in 2011. I think it's a big thing in 2010. I think it was a big thing in 2008. Connecticut buys healthcare in about a half a dozen different ways that don't talk to each other. Connecticut buys pharmaceuticals in about 6 different ways that don't talk to each other. We're spending a boatload of money. And the first reaction when we hit an economic crisis is to sort of cut at the most vulnerable, easy pickings, big buckets, instead of really reforming the way we do things. So I'm hoping to bring some of that sort of entrepreneurial inside government spirit into the office of lieutenant governor. Because it's going to have to be a policy partner to the governor. Things are that broken. We can't take a constitutional office that we pay for with our tax dollars and let it cut ribbons and go to funerals. It's just a really bad use of your money and mine. And I would argue if that's what we're going to have it do, maybe we don't need it. But it is. It exists, and it's there for a reason. Before I was the healthcare advocate, I was the assistant state comptroller under our good and mutual friend, Nancy Weiner. And I learned a lot from Nancy Weiner in the 7 years that we were together. I learned a lot about reading the budget. I learned the trick of you read the back of the budget first. You don't fuss with the numbers. You go to look for the dirty, nasty stuff in the back of the budget. Because that's where all the interesting stuff is. But I learned something perhaps more important. 2 things. That 2 things in politics matter. Loyalty and your word. And I think I've been successful in the work that I do because I try to keep my word every day. I try to return calls. I try to make government efficient. You know, we're Democrats, we're not afraid of government. We don't hate government like the other side. But we also want it to be efficient. We want to make sure that the tax dollar that we spend is put to good use. And I think we can do that. So, healthcare is not theoretical for me, but there are other things I care about. Government efficiency, customer service. How was your interaction with your government? Has anybody ever asked you that? How can we make things better? And how do we actually integrate that into what we do? Governor's going to have to be a visionary. He's going to have to sort of inspire us to go in a new direction. But he's also, he or she, maybe, is also going to have to be a technical person. Someone who understands how government works, how it can work better, and then to make those changes as they're appropriate. And then the third piece of what a governor is going to need to do is to be strong politically. I like a hard political fight. It's part of what I do. Governor didn't like the work that we were doing. Governor didn't like getting leaned on by the insurance industry, and she moved against us to eliminate us. Took us on, didn't cut us a little bit, zeroed us out completely, and never had the courage to call me and say it was happening. I had to hear about it from a reporter. But we had built such a coalition over time, and we had built such great relationships in the legislature with Dick Rook and with Barbara wasn't there yet, but with Gail, that we were able to pull these coalitions together. That's the same kind of work that's going to happen to get us out of where we are now. This all isn't theoretical for me. I sort of remember as a kid, my mother was an OPEIU, AFL, now she's a retiree, and my stepfather was a machinist. And so I was the kid who had to clean the shavings out of the beds of the lathes, on the weekends. And he got injured. And we sat at the kitchen table, and I remember them opening that Blue Cross and Blue Shield bill, and they couldn't pay it. But they had to because he needed ongoing care. So I became that kid whose pants were too short because they couldn't keep up. That shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen in our nation. That shouldn't happen in our country, in our state. And we have the potential to fix it. Our federal conversation has gone completely off the tracks. And we can assign blame in a couple of places for that. But Connecticut's got an opportunity to do that itself. We may not need federal intervention to do that. So I'm working on that. I'm working on sustenance. I'm working on anti-rescission language in our law. I'm working on things that impact people's lives every day and trying to do the best possible job that I can do. So exploring a run for lieutenant governor is unique. I'm not naive. I understand that sometimes the day before the convention, the gubernatorial candidate will stand up and say, "Have you met Louis? Louis, come on up. You're my lieutenant governor." I think we need a more thoughtful practice and a process to get through that. Sometimes it's a political calculation, but I think it needs to be a little bit more substantive, especially when we're in the situation that we're in right now. So, I like the political fight. I'm happy to have it. I like the policy. I know how to run things. I'm one of the few folks who's actually run government agencies and understand how all that works. And I want to take that to this office and be a real policy partner to the next governor, because they're going to need it. And I commit to you that if I can gain your support, I will work every day, as I do now, and twice as hard, to try to make Connecticut a better place for us and for our kids and for the generation that comes behind them. So, thank you. It's really good to be with you.